You can go live, but I'm just I don't think so. I might need to. I can change something really fast here, though. Let's see, sound.
Welcome to the Off the Canvas MMA podcast, where we discuss upcoming events, news, and predictions.
One of the more devastating knockouts you will see.
Join us for the latest updates around the MMA world. Now, here are your hosts, Norris and Coop.
Good. Okay, well, welcome back, everybody. This is episode 8 of Off the Canvas MMA. I'm Norris. So, needless to say, it has been a long while since we've returned. I think we both kind of got caught up with baseball and whatnot, and it's unfortunate, but we're back. It's all that matters. We're back in everyone's life now. So, before we get into everything that's happened today, because there has been so much that's happened today. Coop, how you doing? What's new? It's been a long time.
Yeah, I'm doing great. Been loving a lot of this UFC that's been going on. All the contender series, they've been pumping out a lot of good content on that, and then these events that have been going on, been having a lot of fun keeping up with those. UFC continues to be, right at the front of the mixed martial arts world and just the sports world in general now.
Yeah, the Contender Series is something that I need to kind of get more involved with. I'm ashamed to admit that it is not necessarily something I tune into every week, unfortunately, but I plan to. And then obviously behind the scenes stuff has kind of gone on a little bit as far as our podcast goes. So first of all, I would like to shout out Connor Darnell for kind of giving us a little bit of a revamped logo from our original one. He did a great job on that. So shout out Connor for that. We really appreciate you for doing that.
Definitely appreciate that. And then I'll give a shout out too as well to anybody that's tuning in from the AnyFans app. Thanks to Dominic Campo. He's been helping us out a little bit with the whole, behind the scenes MMA stuff, giving us a platform to promote our podcast and stuff. So shout out to AnyFans and Dom as well.
Thank you to everybody who has helped get this back up and running. We really appreciate everyone's help as far as that goes. So like I said, we've been gone a long while. It's been a little bit since we've seen everybody, talked to everybody. I think the plan going forward is to kind of get back on schedule and keep this thing rolling.
Yeah, I would love to continue this, have it be a weekly thing, and also do a little bit more. I know we talked about doing a little Contender Series watch along, something like that. Also, maybe doing some reactions to fights. I think that we can do a lot with the community, with the MMA community, and with everything that the UFC gives us. They give us a lot of stuff to talk about, every single week. So I think that we can get a little more active.
Yeah, we got a lot of good ideas, I think, from, potentially getting some fighters on the show as well. I know it's something we've discussed in previous episodes, so I can get back to work on trying to make that happen for us, because I feel like that'd be interesting to have on the show. More user engagement, like you said, like with the streaming the fights, that's a good idea. I think we're going to start doing that. And then I believe also we're going to be getting back to regular schedule with the episode being released on Thursday as far as podcasting goes. So wherever you get your podcasts, be on the lookout for that every Thursday to kind of get you a little pregame before the upcoming card. And recordings, I know we'll bounce around a little bit, so just make sure to be checking in with us on social media. Mainly Twitter is the big one we are using currently. We're still trying to get Instagram rolling, but Twitter is going to be the main basically news outlet for us going forward. So just be sure to check in with that. As far as recordings, we'll be streaming on YouTube now.
Yes, sir.
Uh,
If you're
previously,
watching, if you're watching
yeah,
on
if you're
YouTube, there's the Twitter and the YouTube right above our heads, above our logo. So you guys can follow us there, keep up with it. So when we stream on YouTube, we'll have our live reactions doing the live stream, and then it'll save and be available for you guys to watch afterwards as well.
Yeah, like I said, like I was going to say, we used to be streaming over on Twitch, but we decided to make the jump over to YouTube just to kind of keep everything more organized and more user friendly per se. So we'll be here on YouTube every week recording the show. So anybody who wants to watch it live will be here every week, or listening, like I said, be released on Thursdays is the plan going forward, back to your regularly scheduled programming. So, like we stated, there has been a lot of shit going down today. Um, I need your thoughts here. Where do we want to start? Because I don't think there's necessarily a bad area to start.
I mean, we can start at the first the first time a UFC press conference has ever been canceled. Yesterday, there was some backstage incidents that occurred between a couple of the fighters and a couple of their friends. Kevin Holland, Hamzat Chimaev, Nate Diaz, Nick Diaz, Jake Shields, Gilbert Melendez, all of them involved. I know the Diaz crew, the Nate Diaz army was all included in that. So we can start there with the press conference. I'd like to hear what you think about Dana canceling the press conference and just what you think about that whole debacle.
So, unfortunately, I wasn't able to tune into the press conference, which is pretty unusual for me, but I think it's acceptable being that NFL football started last night. So that kind of took priority over that, and you got to look out for the fantasy lineups as well. So I was doing a lot of that. But needless to say, I believe I got a text from you saying that the press conference was canceled. So I immediately jumped on Twitter to see just what the hell was going on. And I don't know, man. It was something I've never seen before. And like Dana White even said himself, this is something that's never happened in the company's history. So it was definitely interesting for sure. It was just, I was more or less waiting for the leaked footage to come out. That's what I was scouring Twitter for about an hour, trying to.
We're gonna get it eventually. We got the McGregor Dolly incident. We got it as a promo for their fight between him and Khabib. So we're gonna get that footage eventually. I think it's just a matter of time before we get it. Dana's the master promoter. He's the master of using bad situations to his advantage. So I think we're gonna see that footage eventually, maybe in a UFC promo for a Hamzat fight or something like that. So I think we'll see it.
Now that you mention it, pulling up Twitter earlier today when I was basically trying to figure out what was going to be going on as far as tomorrow's card. I did see some leaked footage. Obviously, the video quality wasn't that great, but I did see a little bit of the scuffle. Couldn't really make out any faces, though. Unfortunately, it looked like it was filmed from a 2006 flip phone. So the quality wasn't that great, but there was some leaked footage. Obviously, from the video, if anybody's seen it, multiple parties involved, but cannot make out faces that greatly. So, but that was the one thing I was really looking forward to, was seeing the leaked footage as far as the backstage brawls go, just because it had to have been something extremely crazy for them to completely cancel the press conference and be concerned for everybody's safety in that regard.
Yeah, and I don't know if you saw the interview with Dana. I think it was today, talking about, it was funny. He goes, "I'm not going to tell you guys what happened back there, so don't ask." And then he proceeded to tell everybody what happened back there, even though they didn't ask him. So
Yep.
I thought that was hilarious. I think the biggest thing that made me sad about this press conference was, I don't know if you saw Leach, in the UFC Embedded, he bought a brand new suit. He got it all tried on and, got a custom suit. And then you see there's a video of him going to walk out to the press conference, and he doesn't speak English very well, so he didn't really understand what was going on. All excited to walk out there to do the press conference, and they had to tell him, "Hey man, we're not doing the press conference. You don't get to talk to the people." So I saw that, and I was like, "Dang, that kind of sucks for the leech."
I did see that, but I must say that my favorite moment of the press conference was Tony Ferguson going up to the podium and asking next question. That is just vintage Tony Ferguson right there. It doesn't get any better than that.
Not at all.
Definitely made his statement as far as the press conference goes. But yeah, man, this weekend, tomorrow actually, not this weekend, but tomorrow more specifically. So if you haven't heard, you're gonna hear. I don't know how you wouldn't have heard. It's been all over Twitter, if you follow MMA Twitter. But basically, the main card got rearranged. So now we are looking at the originally scheduled fights were Diaz versus Chimaev, Ferguson versus Li Jingliang, and Kevin Holland versus Daniel Rodriguez. But now we are getting Diaz versus Ferguson in the main event. And then we are getting 5-round main event. We are getting Chimaev versus Kevin Holland in what was speculated going to be a 3-round event, but is now a 5-round not a main event, a 5-round event, 5-round fight. So I think that's huge for that fight. I think that needed to happen. And then finally, to round it out, we got Lee the Leech versus Daniel Rodriguez. So what do you think of these new matchups versus the old matchups? Do you think this card is now better with these matchups? Are these the matchups that should have originally been created? What are your thoughts here?
So first of all, I just want to go over, why they were changed. I don't want to really skip over Hamzat missing weight by 8.5 pounds or 7.5 pounds or whatever it was. I don't know what the deal was with that. I know Dana said it was a medical reason. But I was watching the weigh-in show, and Daniel Cormier was talking to somebody, one of the analysts on there. I was listening on the way to work, so I didn't see who it was. But they were talking about how James Krause has a theory that if you're going to miss weight by that much, just don't even get on the scale. And DC brought up a pretty good point that he was saying, if you're one of the lower fighters on the card, yeah, you don't have to get on the scale, like whatever, you're just not going to fight. People are going to, wonder why you didn't get on the scale, or why, obviously they're going to think that you missed because you missed weight, but they're not really going to know why. Whereas if you go and step on the scale and you're 8 pounds overweight, they're going to be like, wow, look at this guy. But DC made a good point in saying, if you're the lower person on the card, yeah, whatever, nobody's going to think too much about it if you don't step on the scale. If you're Hamzat Chimaev, you're the main event, and you don't go out there, you're just going to, your reputation's going to be shot. And another thing that he said, which really stuck out to me, was because he is in the main event, right, as soon as he weighs in that 8 pounds overweight, Dana, Mick Maynard, and Hunter Campbell are all going like, okay, how are we going to save this card? What are we going to do to get Hamzat on this card? He's a moneymaker. He's a needle mover, as Dana says. So they're going to go and they're going to do whatever they can to get him back on this card. So I thought that was really interesting, that was DC's take on it. Whereas, somebody else might be like, well, they're just going to throw this card out, or they're just going to throw Hamzat off the card.
Yeah, and I've seen speculation today in the Twitter sphere that there was actually some sort of unspecified health condition that led to Chimaev essentially being 8.5 pounds over the welterweight limit. Don't know how much truth there is to that. I believe nothing more really came of it, but certainly could be the case, because I know that I read also that the commission physically would not let him cut any more weight. So that does lead me to believe that possibly something was going on. But I think in the end, I think that Chimaev versus Diaz, I think we all kind of knew how that one was going to go. Definitely. So I think that getting Ferguson versus Diaz is not only a fight that should have happened years ago, but one that's going to be entertaining for all parties involved.
Definitely think that is a better fight. I don't know if it's a better main event, but it is a better, more competitive fight. Diaz and Ferguson. I want to get your thoughts real quick before we hop into analyzing the fights. There's a lot going around. Dustin Poirier was tweeting a lot about him being only 5 pounds over the 170 limit and saying that he was willing to come in on super short notice and fight Diaz. So I want to get your thoughts on him having a contract signed to fight Michael Chandler already, which we haven't talked about at all yet. But Dustin Poirier, Michael Chandler, super exciting fight. Two of
And
my
three
favorite
rounds.
guys. Three
Yeah.
rounds. Two of my favorite guys. But I want to get your thoughts on, the Diamond saying, "Hey, I know I'm signed to fight already, but I'll come out and I'll fight Diaz, a month or two before he's supposed to fight Michael Chandler."
So you know what the funny thing is that there was just I'm going back to Twitter again, shocker, but there was just so much mayhem going around Twitter today that I believe that a lot of information was actually missed and hidden from the general eye. Uh, However, I spent most of my day looking at Twitter, so I didn't really miss much of anything. Um, but I did read, I believe it was from Ariel Hawani, um, basically stating that Dustin Poirier, that they had extended the offer to fight Nate Diaz to Dustin Poirier. Not only did he accept, but he had a jet on standby ready to go. And the sad part about this is that much of anything, that's as far as it got. He didn't hear anything after that. So they offered it to him, he accepted, and he was ready to go and then never heard anything back again.
Yeah. So I wonder if Dana, and them didn't like. I don't know if they would have been okay with him kind of breaking that contract and going to fight him. So I'm sure there was stuff said behind the scenes to Dustin about why they didn't say anything back to him. So I'm sure there was conversations between the two of them, but I don't know what Dana's like opinion is on the matter. I also want to know what Michael Chandler's opinion on the matter is. He has a contract signed to fight this guy, and he's like, "Yeah, let me go fight somebody else instead." So I mean, it's just a really weird situation because it's not really ever happened before. So it's just, I mean, it's huge for the UFC. I don't. A lot of people are saying it's a bad look. I think it's a bad look for Hamzat unless something comes out later about his health, obviously, which we don't know about. But as of right now, looks bad for him. Looks great for Nate Diaz. You know, is great for the fans because we still get all the guys on the card and we still get all the fights. So I'm super excited for that, and I think that this is best case scenario out of a bad situation.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Like going back to the Dustin Poirier thing, I think him versus Diaz would have been more of a higher marketable main event than Ferguson versus Diaz. But I feel like the Poirier Diaz matchup, I feel like would have went very similarly to Chimaev versus Diaz because I think Poirier, despite fighting at 155, he's very capable at fighting at 170, uh, weight wise at least. Uh, but I think Ferguson versus Diaz is not only the better matchup, but more of one that makes sense. And I mean, it's it's not hidden knowledge here that this is Nate Diaz's last fight on his contract, if I'm not mistaken. And I believe I saw something again, yes, on Twitter earlier that these guys are 1-7 in their last main events. Don't quote me on that, but so as far as fighting goes, I think this is the better matchup to make in the fact that both of these guys could use a win. They're both veterans. We know what we're going to get out of both of them, and I think it's going to make for a really interesting fight, and I think one that's going to keep the fans engaged more than seeing Chimaev beat up on Nate for 4 rounds and then seeing Nate land one significant strike in the fifth, and then it's going to be another Leon Edwards situation. You know?
Definitely.
But
So are you ready to kind of get into this card and kind of go over some of the fights?
yeah, because I think a lot of this card has been centered around the pre-made fights today, and I think not a lot of light has been shed on the other fighters that are also on this card. So yeah, I think it would definitely go in deep here and talk about more than just the three fights that have been discussed all day today.
Yeah. So one of the fights on the prelims, or they're opening up the card, is Darian Weeks versus Johan Linesi. I think I don't want to pronounce it wrong, but I think that's how you say it. I I have heard a lot about Darian Weeks. I'm trying to find his stats right here. I had it up earlier, and then I got too excited and kind of lost it. Let me see. Where is this the? Nope, it's not MMA Junkie. Don't have all my.
I was just about to say the same thing. It's been so long that I even forgot what website I used for all of my statistical research.
Me too.
It wasn't Sherdog, it was the other one.
Yes, exactly. It wasn't Sherdog for me either. Was it?
MMA Junkie. I am drawing a blank here.
Dude, why is it? Why can't I find it? I don't know. This is. Anyways, I'm just gonna go through here and talk about, Darian Weeks, 5-2, one of Daniel Cormier's guys. Tapology, yeah, that's what it was. Darian Weeks is one of DC's guys. I don't know who he fought in his last fight. I'm gonna pull that up real quick. But okay, here we go.
While you're looking at that, I want to throw this out there too about missing weight. This is one I'm sure we would have discussed, but we missed too. I believe this was the first time ever, correct me if I'm wrong, that a heavyweight has missed the weight cut.
Yes, it was Beast Boy Barnett. Well, it wasn't the first time anyone's ever missed because
So was it Lewis? Was it Derek Lewis? Or
no, Justin Toffa missed.
That's right.
Justin Toffa missed the heavyweight limit of 265, but this is the most anyone has ever missed by. I think he weighed in at 268.5.
I think he was 267.5. He's a pound and a half over the 266 limit, which I don't even know why they give these guys the 1 pound grace limit.
They do, yeah.
For the heavyweight, these guys have from literally 206 to 265. They have essentially a 60-pound window that they can weigh in at. Why are we giving them an extra pound like we do with every other division?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. So, coming back to this first fight, Darian Weeks on the card. He's 0-2 in the UFC. His UFC debut was against Brian Barberena, who, is. We saw him recently in a fight with Robbie Lawler. That was one of the better fights of the year. So he's a veteran of the game, veteran of the UFC. So I give that one to him. And then he came back. His next fight was against Ian Gary, who's one of the top prospects in the UFC. He's 10-0. People are already dubbing him, the next McGregor just because he's from Ireland. But Darian Weeks, he's a good fighter. He's just fought some good competition so far, and he's taking on Johan Linesi, who is 0-1 in the UFC. He's coming from the Contender Series where he won with a first-round knockout, but he got knocked out in his first UFC debut against Gabe Green. And then he was supposed to fight Miguel Baeza, and that one got canceled. So this should be an interesting fight. You know that Dana loves to put his, a couple fighters that nobody really knows about, but that should put on a banger to open up the prelim. So I'm excited about that fight. I think that's going to be, a good fight. And then going back to touch on that, the weight, the weight misses a little bit. 6 of the 13 fights on here are at catch weights.
Yeah, that's another interesting fact too. I think because what are the other ones besides D-Rod and Leach and Holland and Chimaev? What are the other ones?
There is Irene Aldana and Macy Chason is a catchweight. Hakeem Dawodu, Julian Arosa is a catchweight.
Is one a catchweight? It looks like on Tapology it says that Arosa and Dawodu is a 145. Oh, but you know what?
Dawodu weighed in like 4 pounds overweight. Right. So that one's a catchweight, and then there was one other one, but I'm not sure which one it was. That's also a catchweight. Another fight that I wanted to touch on, which I think is a super interesting fight, and I'll definitely have to be tuning into this one. There is Danielle Wolf, who is a former pro boxer. She is 1-0 in her UFC or in her MMA career. She has one win, and it was on the Contender Series. She has no fights other than that, and she's fighting Norma Dumont, who's 7-2.
And is this still the early prelims here, or is this the prelims?
This is the feature early prelim.
The featured early prelim, and which is, I believe, is still only accessible via UFC Fight Pass. Not wrong, or did they extend that out to ESPN Plus now too?
I think it's ESPN Plus as well.
Okay, because I know that was just a clusterfuck having to go back between UFC Fight Pass and ESPN Plus all the time.
But that one is something I'm super, super interested to watch. She came into the Danielle Wolf came into the Contender Series 0-0, never having fought an MMA fight in her career. So for her to come in, win that by decision, and still get a contract for the UFC from Dana White, super impressive. And then she's taken 2 years off since that Contender Series win just to train and to get better at MMA. Better prepare herself. She's a 27-14 career record in boxing. She's 39 years old, so I don't know really what she has. If she loses this fight, I don't really know what she's going to do in the UFC, but for, her to make a run, it's going to have to start right now. So, going against Norma Dumont is a good start for that.
Yeah, kind of going up towards the top of that division there, and just obviously not much time left being 39 years old, so she's definitely going after it. This is an interesting one I like. I know we just talked about him, but Chris Barnett and Jake Collier. This fight, Chris Barnett, obviously one of the most exciting heavyweights you can watch. And then Collier with fists of steel. It seems like in every single one of his fight, he can put your lights out whenever he wants to. And then Chris Barnett, just another exciting guy to watch. Just one of those fights that I don't think you can miss. And it opens up the prelims if that.
Yeah. Collier also seems to have a chin of steel. He got knocked out by Tom Aspinall. It happens. One of the best up and coming guys in the UFC right now, regardless of division. And then he also, I want to say, he lost by ground and pound in 2 UFC fights, but he's never been really put out other than that one against Tom Aspinall. But he's been trading off wins and losses. Lost to Aspinall, beat Gian Villante, lost to Carlos Biggie Boy, or what's his name? Carlos Boy Felipe, who's not even in the UFC anymore. Then he beat Chase Sherman. Then he lost a split decision against Andrei Arlovsky in his last time out. This is going to be an interesting one. I think that Collier might try to wrestle him, just because he's pretty explosive on the feet. Chris Barnett is.
Size. He's extremely explosive at heavyweight.
One thing I did want to touch on, that just a lot of people haven't heard about, that I saw an article about Chris Barnett. He lost in his last fight out, and his wife actually passed away less than 30 hours before he was supposed to go out to fight.
Really?
Yeah. So, he's been going through a lot. I think that might have something to contribute to, the miss on weight. He's been dealing with a lot of that stuff, but it was pretty cool to see that happened. He lost his wife, and Dana White kind of stepped up, helped him with funeral costs, I saw, and helped him out financially a little bit. So Dana White, being the giver that he is, and being the president of the UFC, really, really classy move on him to help Barnett out.
That's something I don't remember seeing at all. I'm going to be honest with you. But yeah, class act, Dana White helping him out.
Yeah. So that one, I gotta go. If Collier wrestles him, I gotta go with Collier there. But if Barnett, can be explosive on the feet and channel some of his early energy that he puts into his dancing, and if he can channel that into his fight, I think that'll be a pretty good heavyweight battle.
Yeah, I think we're for sure looking at a really good heavyweight fight to kick off the prelims there. Moving on to the next one, I know this is a guy we have talked about in previous episodes, and I believe he's came up big every single time we've discussed him. That would be Jamie Pickett versus Dennis. I'm not even going to attempt that.
Yeah, I
But
don't
yeah,
know, Tululian, something like that.
yeah, I don't know. And then the guy above him, Anton Turkolaj. I'm guessing, I don't know. That's another name I'm gonna butcher, so I'm not even gonna try. But Jamie Pickett, I I don't know. I love watching Jamie Pickett fights. He is just to me, he's one of the most exciting guys to watch. Um, did lose last time out in February to Kyle Dawkins via Darce choke, but prior to that, he was coming off two hard-fought decision wins over Laurenio Staropoli and Joseph Holmes. I mean, not household names, but Jamie Pickett, just somebody I've always really enjoyed watching. I like how he fights, very high for the division, and looks like he. Let's look at Dennis here. I'm just gonna call him Dennis as far as this goes.
He's 0 and
So
1 in the
10
UFC.
0-1 in the UFC, 10-6 overall. So this essentially seems like a gimme fight for Pickett, but obviously you never know with MMA.
It's
Uh,
interesting. It's interesting to see too that they were scheduled to fight each other in a fight that got canceled, and they rescheduled it to fight him again. I know a lot of times if it's not a big name like and something falls through, they're not going to reschedule it again. But there's something that the matchmakers like that they see that they want to see this fight. So I'm excited about that one. Have to tune into that one as well.
I'm gonna take a wild guess and say if he's a Russian, he's probably a strong wrestler, which might be detrimental to Pickett's success, but
Yeah.
never know.
This next one, I'm excited to watch this.
Just looking at the records, it's exciting, and it looks like we got another catch.
This is the catchweight one, yeah. So Turkaj, I want to say he is what is Hamzat's camp?
Same camp with Till, right?
Yeah, the Swedish camp. I forget what it's called.
Is that the one that's is it GBG?
So I don't know. It's something like that. But he's from Sweden. He's 8-0 in his MMA career. He has one loss on his record here, and it was an exhibition grappling match against Alexander Gustafsson.
Interesting.
So that's very interesting. But he won on the Contender Series in a unanimous decision. Before that, he had finished all of his fights. So I think this will be an interesting fight to see. I'm excited to see that guy make his debut. I don't remember watching him on the Contender Series, but I think it'll be pretty good. And then going on to Almeida, he's 1-0 in the UFC. He beat Parker Porter by rear naked choke. So I think this will be a good fight. Don't know too much about either of them. Looking at Almeida though, he does have a win, or I guess it's a grappling win. He has a lot of grappling on his record. That's not it doesn't count towards his record, but he has a lot of grappling matches on here.
Looks like as far as MMA goes, he's riding an 11 fight win streak in mixed martial arts.
But he did win a grappling match against Caio Borralho, who is one of my favorite up and coming guys, who's 12-1 in MMA, and he's 2-0 in the UFC. So and he's a pretty good grappler in his fights. So seeing that, I'm kind of interested about that to see Almeida fight. And then the featured prelim, out of catchweight now because Dawodu missed weight, but I'm very excited for this one. This is gonna be. Honestly, I think this is going to be a fairly quick fight. This is one I don't see going to a decision. But Dawodu versus Julian Erosa, really, really excited for this one. I want to know your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I was just about to ask who you got winning this fight because I mean I got my pick here, but who you got in this one?
So I'm torn because I really like, I really like Erosa. And I like Dawodu as well. His only loss recently, other than his UFC debut, was to Movsar Evloev, who is kind of a machine, and one of the top up and coming prospects in this division as well. So I just I think I'm going to go with Dawodu here, especially because he came in overweight. I think he's going to have that weight advantage against Erosa, and I think he's going to win this one.
I think I'm going to roll with Juicy J here. Juicy J's been my boy for a long time since he was on, I believe it was season 19 of The Ultimate Fighter, McGregor and Faber. But, he got not knocked out, but he did lose to ground and pound in June of 21 against Sungwoo Choi, excuse me. But since then, he went on and got a round 3 Darce chokes victory over Charles Jourdain, a very up-and-coming Canadian prospect. And then he got I believe this one was a very hard split decision win over Steven Peterson. It seemed to me at least that ever since Arosa got put away in the first round by Sungwoo Choi, he's been a different animal. He's been extremely hard to put away. I believe it was a Steven Peterson match where they were going back and forth with each other, and Arosa was getting hit with some hard shots, and he would not go down. He kept going forward. So I like to think he is a revived Julian Arosa. He's 33, so he's still on the right side of 30. But always been one of my favorite guys to watch. So I'm gonna have to ride with him on this one.
All right, and that'll bring us to the main card. The opening fight on this main card is going to be a banger. It's two guys who have had control problems in their careers, guys that come out and they just kind of, they get into the fight and they just start throwing. They don't really think about technique or defense or anything like that. So I'm super excited for this one. I think it's either going to be an absolute barn burner that's going to end in the first round with somebody, on their back looking up at the lights, or it's going to be one where they both try to, tone it down, be technical, take their time, and it's going to be kind of a snooze fest. So I want to know what you think is going to happen in this one.
In a perfect world, I would like to imagine that this is going to be just a back and forth striking match. Because we know how crazy Kudalaba can get. We've seen the Magomed Ankalaev clips when they had their 2 fights. We've seen those clips. We know he's very much willing to stand there and bang. And then Johnny Walker, since switching camp, seems to be very striking orientated, because I know he switched to that camp in Dublin where Conor McGregor trains out of. He's now led by John Kavanagh, I believe.
Yep.
He's at John Kavanagh's wing. So obviously much more striking orientated coming out of that camp. And we saw it in his last fight, even though he got brutally demolished by Jamal Hill. But
Sweet dreams.
Exactly that. But, going back to the Thiago Santos loss, I did see some good things out of Johnny Walker there. It seemed he was very comfortable with striking with a mountain of a force that is Thiago Santos. So I think switching camps for Walker was the right choice. And I think I think it's rounded out his game more since switching than it was before. Obviously his last 2 fights don't suggest that, but you can maybe back me up a little bit on this. I feel like he's looked better in both of those fights, despite getting caught in the first round against Jamal Hill. I thought he actually looked very decent in the Thiago Santos match.
I did think he looked a lot more calculated and a lot, more crisp with his strikes in that Thiago Santos one and early in the Jamal Hill one as well. But as we have kind of found out since that, Jamal Hill is the real deal.
Yeah.
So this is a huge fight for both of these guys. I know it might not be for fans, but it's a huge fight. Walker's lost 4 of his last 5, and Kutalaba has lost 3 of his last 5. So in order for these guys to kind of come back up the rankings, Johnny is still ranked 12th in that division, and Kutalaba is unranked, which is kind of surprising to me, but it is kind of a deep division. So, this is a big fight for both of them. But I'm going to have to go ahead. I'm going to take Johnny Walker in this one. I want to know who do you got?
I was going to take Johnny Walker as well, simply because I feel like the caliber of fighters he's fought in his last 2 fights pretty much overwhelmed the caliber of fighters Kudalaba has fought in. I think everybody that Johnny Walker has fought in the UFC is better than everybody Kudalaba's fought. I think really the only notable name Kudalaba's fought is Magomed Ankalaev. I mean, you could throw Ryan Spann up there, and if we want to go record for record, Kudalaba has a loss against Ryan Spann, and I believe Johnny Walker holds a win over Ryan Spann. So if we want to look at it that way, I don't like to, but we can go. I just think the caliber, the fighters Johnny Walker's been in there with, his experience against those guys, despite getting knocked out by Jamal Hill, you're still in there with Jamal Hill. I think just the caliber of fighters he's consistently been fighting is going to be a big beneficiary for him in this match
I
against Guda. So I'm going to go with Walker as well.
agree with that. The next fight on here is a catchweight, but it's number 4 ranked Irene Aldana versus number 10 ranked Macy Chiasson. This is an interesting fight to me, not one that I'm like super excited about, but it does interest me. I think it's going to be a pretty good striking match. Aldana, former boxer, I want to say, has good striking, but I'm kind of excited for it. I think it's going to be a pretty good, pretty good striking match between these two.
Yeah, she does have some notable wins. Most recently, it's been a KO of Ketlin Vieira back in 2019 and a ground and pound victory over Yana Kunitskaya back in July of 21.
Yeah,
And she took Holly Holm to a decision. She did lose unanimously though, but
yeah,
she
and
did
they were talking about in that one. That was a main event of a UFC fight night. They were talking about that one. If she got a win against Holly Holm, that she was going to get a title shot. Unfortunately, lost. But I think this is an interesting matchup because they're both pretty good on the feet. Chiasson 5'11", and I want to say Aldana is up there as well. Aldana's 5'9", so Chiasson's gonna
pretty
have.
tall women stepping in the octagon on Saturday night.
What'd you say?
Said some pretty tall women stepping in the octagon Saturday
Oh
night.
yeah, Chiasson does have the 4-inch reach advantage, so I'm leaning towards her. She's a heavy underdog in this one.
I see why. Just looking at her recent fights, she hasn't really fought anybody of importance. I guess you could say that might not be the word used. Yeah, merit. Other than the fact looked like she had a cursed bout with Aspen Ladd, got canceled twice back to back within 3 months.
Yeah.
Loses via guillotine to Raquel Pennington, who up and down, I guess you could say. Most recently, victory over Norma Dumont, who I believe was on the prelims.
Yes, she is.
Split decision. So
I think if I'm just going straight up who I'm picking, I'm going to pick Irene Aldana. If I was going to throw money on the fight, couple bucks, I'd probably put it on Macy Chiasson. That plus 320 looks pretty good for a fight that I think is going to be closer than plus 320.
Well, we can definitely go through. I have the DraftKings odds pulled up if we want to throw an official OTC bet up for this weekend. Official OTC parlay, we can each pick 2. I know I will for sure be betting this weekend. So if we want to go ahead and throw out an official parlay after we discuss all these fights, I think that would be a fantastic idea.
All right.
Give people the chance to lose money with us.
Yeah, to lose it with us. So are you going Aldana or Chiasson in this one?
I think I'm going to go Aldana as well, simply much for the Johnny Walker pick, the caliber of fighter she's been in the cage with.
All right.
You go 5 rounds with Holly Holm, I think you deserve some respect in that essence.
Yeah. So this next fight,
I don't know about this one.
I'm excited for it because D-Rod is one of my favorite fighters to watch recently. He's been, he's on a 3-fight win streak. His first career loss was a decision to Nicholas Dalby, who I haven't heard much from other than that win against Daniel Rodriguez, but he is, I think that Daniel Rodriguez has the means to win this fight, being heavier and being in this weight class. But I want to say that D-Rod's gonna win this one.
Yeah, this is one that I don't really know what to expect from. So I'm just going to sit back and enjoy this one as a fan because I don't really know which way to lean with this one. Not entirely sure what I'm expecting to get out of this one. So this is going to be just one of those fights that I'm just going to sit back and enjoy. I'm not going to really make a pick on this one. This is one I'll also be avoiding on my official pick as well.
Okay, that's fair. So this one, I think the biggest thing that's making me lean towards D-Rod is the fact that he is 10 pounds or weighed in 10 pounds heavier than Leach. But Leach is definitely a guy who's gonna go out there. He's gonna give you everything he's got. You saw him get choked out by Hamzat, not tap and go to sleep. He knocked out in his last fight. I didn't think he was gonna win. But he knocked out Muslim Salikov, the king of kung fu. Um, that was a great fight. Leach looked awesome in that one. So, I'm definitely not saying that D-Rod's gonna roll right through him, but I think that the weight advantage is gonna help him there. But I think D-Rod's gonna win this one.
Yeah, I think I would agree because I think we've seen D-Rod at welterweight before, if I'm not mistaken. Correct? Wasn't his bout against Kevin Lee back in August of last year? Wasn't that at welterweight?
I'm not entirely sure. Let me take a look at it. It was at 170, yeah. And
And if
then
I remember right, he looked massive compared to Kevin Lee in
he
that
looked
fight.
he looked
That
huge
one.
compared to Kevin Lee.
So I think at 180, Leach is a big guy, but D-Rod, if you look at D-Rod against 170, look at D-Rod at 170. Um, yeah, that man's a problem in that division. But catch weight 180, I think
Yep.
Leach is gonna be a little bit smaller. Like you said, I'm going to go ahead and give if I have to make a pick here, gun to my head, I'm going to ride D-Rod as well,
All right.
purely out of
Um,
a advantage in this one.
I'm gonna let you take the reins on this one. Hamzat and Kevin Holland, Big Mouth
I
versus Boers. I'm gonna
I
let you
am
take
in
this one.
love with this fight. I really wish this would have been just the originally scheduled bout because there's recently been some, I guess you could say, beef popping off with these two prior to the backstage brawl. Kevin Holland essentially saying that Chimaev does all of this shit he does just in front of the media and that he doesn't do any of it off camera, much like people like to state about Colby Covington. But needless to say, my favorite quote of today after all the mayhem was Joe Rogan asking Kevin Holland, is this a better fight for you? And Kevin Holland says, fuck no, but it's going to be a fun one.
I
So I think we're in for a real treat here. Unfortunately, I think Chimaev's going to win, but we know Kevin Holland's down. Kevin Holland's game. He's taking a fight with 24 out, like probably under 24 hours notice against Hamza Chimaev. Who the fuck does, you know?
Kevin Holland will fight you anywhere, anytime. Doesn't care who you are. If you're a crackhead running down the streets of Houston, or if you're the number 3 ranked welterweight in the whole world, Kevin Holland will fight you. I think that
Yeah.
just goes to show he knows that this isn't a good matchup for him. He knows this is honestly the worst matchup that he could have. If you look at his fights that he's
I
lost, if you look at the fights that he's lost to Marvin Vettori, Derek Brunson, two wrestling heavy guys, those are his only 2 losses in the UFC. So to go and fight someone who might be the best, he's not the best wrestler in the division, Colby Covington is, but the pace that Hamzat puts on and just the ferociousness which he wrestles with and just pushes the pace, just shows how down Kevin Holland is.
Yeah, and there was a lot of talk, after Kevin Holland lost to I want to say it was Vittori or Brunson, he went back and really tried to revamp his grappling to kind of be more well-rounded, and his last victory was via Darce choke in round 2. I mean, granted it was against Tim Means, veteran guy, but we got to see Kevin Holland on the ground, and I must say he did look better. But Chimaev is a beast when it comes to that world of fighting. So, but I think one way or another, though, this fight was gonna have to happen at some point because
Eventually.
Kevin Holland was a 180 or he's a true 185er cut down to 170 because the wrestler's a 185. I mean, I don't blame him.
Yeah.
And he's looked good at 170. I think his first fight he looked a little, he looked a little off, but now I think he's got his weight under control for 170 to really make a name for himself there. And then obviously Chimaev's bounced back and forth between 85 and 70. So I think somewhere down the line this was going to be something that had to happen. It kind of sucks. I mean, it doesn't suck. It sucks for the fact that Kevin Holland's not getting a full training camp to prepare for a guy like this.
Yeah.
He was preparing for Daniel Rodriguez, and they were gonna stand and
Yeah, they were gonna stand and bang. So one of the things that
Just-
I'm interested to see though is, Hamzat had one combined significant strike absorbed in his first 3 fights. Then he goes out against Gilbert Burns, and I want to say upwards of like
He's 100.
160 or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, you know, so that was they got voted second in MMA or in UFC for Fight of the Year in 2022. It was Fight of the Night, obviously. So I'm interested to see how he bounces back from that. I want to know how his recovery is. It's not starting off well by him missing weight. So I'm just super excited to see what he looks like coming out there. You watch the videos of him training and you see him, with Till and with Gustafsson and them, and he looks normal. He looks exactly how he looked before the Burns fight, and you see him, they talk about how much of an animal he is in the gym and the pace that he pushes and just how hard he works there, and how he enjoys being tired and pushing through it. So that is the biggest part of his game is his pace. I think, in my opinion, his pace and his wrestling is the biggest part of his game. So
Absolutely.
seeing how that is affected by him missing weight by 8 pounds, and if it has something to do with his health, I'm gonna be interested to see how he goes about his business in this fight with Kevin Holland. After missing weight, and really see how his cardio is. Kevin Holland's going to come out there and he's going to have some pretty good cardio, striking cardio at least. I know his wrestling is, everybody's going to have decent cardio until they get wrestled for, 25 minutes. They're going to be gassed. So I'm interested to see how this one plays out. This is, I think, a great fight. And who are you going with in this one?
I want to go Kevin Holland, but I think it's hard to pick against Chimaev.
It's so hard to pick against Chimaev just because
the thing is, I think Kevin Holland's going to land shots, and we know Kevin Holland hits pretty hard.
he hits hard, and Chimaev got dropped by Burns a couple times.
Yeah, and I feel like Kevin Holland's striking is a little bit more polished than Gilbert Burns. But don't get me wrong, I think Gilbert's the more well-rounded fighter.
Oh, definitely.
Rankings definitely show that. But Kevin Holland hits hard. We've seen him drop numerous people with ease. So I think if he gets the opportunity to, I think he's going to drop him. But what I'm just going to do? I'm going to go Kevin Holland on this one. I like it here.
All right. I'll go Hamza on this one, just so that we have one fight where our picks are different.
Yep.
Unless this main event is different. This main event, I'm super excited. Might be the last fight for one of my favorite fighters of all time. One of the pioneers of the UFC. I know they talk about Tito Ortiz as the original bad boy, whatever. Nate Diaz is the original bad boy, the original going against the man, stick it to the man. Him and his brother, legends of the sport. I'm just so excited to see this fight. I'm really excited that they got a fight done. I know there were talks about him not getting a fight because of his contract dispute with the UFC, with Dana White. But I'm so excited that he gets a final fight, a farewell fight. And I'm really excited that it is against Tony Ferguson. I'm more excited about that than it is against Hamzat, because
I'm happy that if this is going to be his last fight, it's going to be one. Like it's going to be a better fight than the Chimaev one.
It is going to be a better fight than the Chimaev one. I'm just, in my opinion, just because I think they're more evenly matched. But yeah. I mean, you can't count out Tony, coming up in this division, coming up a weight class to fight this. Like he said, I think he said in his interview, he's like 17-2 at welterweight or something like that. But coming off four losses in a row, 3 losses where he got brutally demolished. Gaethje, Dariush put it on him.
He hasn't been the same since Gaethje, man.
Definitely.
He really has.
I don't think anybody can. But getting knocked out for the very first time in his entire career, put Starch out by Michael Chandler in what was one of the best KOs in UFC history. You can't count out Tony Ferguson. I think it's the same thing now. We're talking about Tony Ferguson. You can't count out Ferguson against Diaz, just like we were talking about you can't count out Nate against Hamzat. So I think this is going to be one of those fights where it's like, okay, these are 2 OGs of the fight game, 2 guys who have a lot of respect for each other, but that are going to go out there to take each other's head off. I think Nate, more of a volume striker, and so is Tony. So I mean, this is just going to be a really fun fight. This is really the main event that I think a lot of people didn't know that we wanted, but it's one that we needed and that I'm really happy that we're getting.
The fans are in for a treat with this one.
I want to so give me your thoughts on Nate's path to victory in this one.
I mean, it's hard not to say his boxing because his boxing is one of the most technical that we've ever seen inside the UFC. Like you look at, up until the point he fought McGregor, nobody really stumbled Connor the way Nate did. And we can even go back to Leon Edwards. I mean, granted it was in the fifth round, but he hit him with just one of the subtlest 1-2s you'd ever see, and it almost knocked him down. I definitely think Nate's path to victory here is going to be his technical boxing because we know Nate is one of the most dirtiest boxers in the game. He can get in there, and once he gets his boxing going, he's hard to stop. But also he's in incredible danger fighting off of his back. But Tony has a very wacky style, especially when it comes to the ground. I don't know. Tony's he's a tricky puzzle, man. He's almost like Wonder Boy in that essence, where he's just you can't find anybody to emulate Tony Ferguson.
Definitely, Nate's definitely not gonna find anybody to emulate Tony. One of the things that I think is funny is when Nate was still talking about fighting against Hamza. People make a big deal about training your whole camp for this one guy and then getting your opponent switched up at the last second. Nate was talking about how he doesn't really prepare for one guy. He prepares to do what he does, how he does it, no matter who the opponent is. So I think that's one thing that's going to help Nate in this fight is that he didn't really care who he doesn't really care who he's fighting. He's down for a scrap and he's down to fight. So I mean, I'm excited for this one. I'll pick first. Since you went first in the last one, I'm going with my boy. I'm going with Nate Diaz, 209 Army. Nate Diaz Army. I got to go with him.
Yeah, I think I'm going to ride with Diaz too. I think, I don't know, his last fight in the UFC, he's just going to go out there and say, fuck it. He's ready to go. The only thing I do think might be a downfall here is I don't know if you saw the promo pictures from when he fought Edwards to now. It literally looked like it almost looked like Nick Diaz in the essence that he just, you remember that video circulating of Nick Diaz when there was talks about him fighting and he looked ripped and then he comes to the cage and it's like, what the hell happened?
Yeah.
That's kind of the same vibe I got from the promo pictures for Nate versus Leon to Nate now.
You look at Tony. Tony doesn't look great right now either. So
no, Tony can fight at 170, but his body looks terrible right now at 170.
The one thing that I am worried about that puts this fight in danger of, going is
Nate's scar tissue.
Tony hits people with elbows and they bust open instantly. Nate gets touched by one knuckle and cuts open and is just bleeding. So that is one thing I'm worried about. I pray to the MMA gods that everything goes smooth and we get a great fight. But that's one thing. There's always we've had a lot of main events recently end early due to injuries. T City versus Yair and Aspinall versus Blades. And even going back to Bilal Muhammad versus who did he fight against that he got his eye poked? Leon
Edwards.
So I hope that this one stays through. I hope we get a good one. I'm going Nate Diaz here. You're going Nate Diaz here. You want to put together our parlay real quick before we get into our little tier talk at the end of this?
I am absolutely down. I have DraftKings pulled up right now. I think there are a couple fights I'm going to be avoiding. I'm going to be avoiding the, as tempting as it is to take Kevin Holland as a 430 dog, I don't think I have the cojones to do it. So I'm going to stay away from that one. Let's see. We got Tony Ferguson actually opened as a favorite in this 120 minus 125. That's interesting. To Diaz as a 105 dog here. See, I'm going to take. Do you want to go first? You want me to go first? I'm going to hit my two first picks here, and then you want to go?
Yeah.
Or do you want to go 1-1-1-1?
Well, let's go 1-1-1-1.
Okay, 1-1-1-1. All right. So I'm going to go with my first pick in the official OTC MMA parlay here. I'm going to take Juicy J, Julian Erosa as a 180 dog over Hakeem Dawood. That's my first pick there.
That is a good pick. That was one of the ones that I was debating going as well. But my pick is gonna be Johnny Walker over Kutalaba I have him as a 170 dog. I don't know what he is on DraftKings.
Kutalaba versus Walker.
Yeah.
I have DraftKings has Kutalaba as a 205 favorite.
Okay, so what's Walker?
175.
175? Okay.
170.
Yeah, I'm going Walker as a 175.
Okay. Those were going to be my two picks here. So let me go ahead and take a look. I'm going to roll with 30 huge favorites down here. You know what? I'm gonna play a safe one here. I'm gonna go Norma Dumont with 380 favorite over Danielle Wolf 310 dog. I'm gonna roll with Dumont here.
All right. So this last one.
Right now we are at plus 872 on this part.
Plus 872. So
Apparently.
there's one fight that I want to take really badly. I don't know what they have it on DraftKings, but on the UFC's official website, they have Almeida versus Turkalj. They have Turkalj as a minus 675 favorite. And Almeida's ranked, and this other guy isn't. But if I'm gonna go with the pick that I want to make that I think is gonna help the parlay, I'm going Jamie Pickett as a minus 130 favorite.
Like pick there. Go. So let's see. So our final line here. This doesn't feel. I don't know if these are adding up correctly. It seems a little odd. Apparently we are at a plus 1500 parlay, which does not. I mean, maybe I don't know. Try putting it in on my phone. It could be different on my phone. But yeah, according to DraftKings Online, we're sitting at a plus 1593 on the odds here on the parlay. Let me go through and put it here just to double check that here. Got Norma Dumont, and then we got Jamie Pickett, Julian Erosa, and Johnny Walker. Yeah, those odds even out plus 1593 for a 4-pick parlay there. Just straight money line here this week. So $10 bet pays out $169.
There we go.
Interesting. Could be making a lot of money here.
Could be with Off the Canvas MMA.
Never know. Be winning money or losing money with this.
So our ending segment that we're gonna start doing here, now that we're jumping back into it, that I think is gonna help us, help you guys get to know us and our fandoms a little bit better. We're gonna do a little tier talk. Shout out to Bussin' with the Boys. They do a tier talk, one of the podcasts that I like watching a lot. But so today's tier talk, we're gonna rank our personal favorite UFC knockouts, 3, 2, and 1. And then you can also give an honorable mention if you'd like.
Some mentions. Okay, so we're going to go top knockouts. Is that correct?
Yes, top knockouts.
Overall history.
Overall UFC history.
We each got to go 3?
Yep. You can lead us off.
I'm really trying not to have recency bias here, but to me, I think. Do you want to go from 3 to 1 or 1 to 3?
3 to 1, and then you can give, like I said, you can give an honorable mention if you want to. I have an honorable mention on mine.
I mean, I got my one. The other, it's going to be. I think my 3 is going to be okay. Yeah, I got it. So I think my 3 is going to be McGregor knocking out Aldo at UFC 194 in 2015. That's got to be one of my top ones, only because my fandom obviously lies with Conor McGregor, so that has to be in my top 3 as far as KOs.
Okay.
I
want you to know that I had my list wrote out before the show started, just so you know.
And I'm assuming that one was on there.
That one was on there.
Well, do you want me to go ahead and give you my second one?
Yeah, give me your second. Give me all of yours.
Okay, so this second one is going to be some recency bias here. It's going to be Edwards knocking out Usman.
Okay.
Strictly because of the fact that we have never seen Usman touched like that, and it was just so beautifully set up. Like that's one of the most perfectly executed head kicks I think I've ever seen inside the octagon, and just I think the stakes at which that head kick came, he's losing. Ultimately, he's losing a decision fight against Usman, and with under a minute left, he lands that kick and becomes a champion. So I think there's some value to that one. As there's recency bias, but with there's bigger stakes for that one.
Yeah.
And then, number one's got to go to me. I feel like this one's a no brainer. It's the Masvidal versus Ben Askren flying knee.
Okay.
I think that's mine. That's my no brainer number one.
No brainer number one. Okay. So I'm gonna start off with my honorable mention. Um, Zero recency bias whatsoever in this one. It's from the first ever UFC 1, the very first fight. Gerard Gordeau knocking out Taylor Tooley. It's this huge sumo wrestler. Guy weighs over 400 pounds against this skinny 200 pound 6'4" Dutch kickboxer. Sumo wrestler runs at him, gets clipped with the right hook and falls down. And UFC 1, no rules. Gordeau blasts him with a head kick and just knocks him out. Guy lands 2 punches, breaks his hand on the first punch, and then just blasts him with a kick and knocks him out. I'm guessing everybody in the entire arena was just like in total shock. This is the first thing they're ever seeing of the UFC. They don't know what it is. This is the first fight. Guy throws 1 punch and 1 kick and knocks him out.
Yeah,
So,
I have seen that one. That one that's a good one to pick. I like that one.
That's my honorable mention. My number 3 is also Conor McGregor over Jose Aldo. I just remember watching that fight in my living room with my family. McGregor hitting him with that left hook and just going crazy. You touched on it already, but that's McGregor being one of my favorite fighters as well. That one was just crazy.
When it was just something we've never seen happen to Aldo leading up to that,
not
and
at all.
He said exactly what he was going to do.
Yep. My number 2, might be a little recency biased, might also be because of this card, but Michael Chandler front kick knocking out Tony Ferguson for the first time in his career, getting put out, just straight out cold. I remember watching that and just kind of being like in shock, like what just happened? He just destroyed him. Just how explosive that kick was, and the fact that Michael Chandler talked about that he doesn't ever really throw that kick in training or anything like that. It just kind of was something that he saw and just threw it and ended up putting him out. And my number 1 was a no-brainer for me. I think it's my favorite it is my favorite knockout ever. I think it's one of the best knockouts ever. But Edson Barbosa with the spinning heel kick to knock out Terry Edom, whatever, putting him out just stiff as a board. I think it's on most of the UFC top knockout videos. I think just how fast he spun all the way around, head kicked him, and just how stiff he went. That's got to be my favorite.
Talking about people going stiff, I got 2 honorable mentions I want to throw in there. The first one is going to be Anthony Pettis knocking out Stephen Thompson with the Superman punch.
Gotta add that one.
Back in 2019, you got to add that one. We've seen.
Made me so sad, but
I don't know if you've seen it, but Stephen Thompson's talked about it, how he literally had no idea. He didn't see it coming, and the next thing he knows, he's waking up.
Yep.
So, and then you watch that, and it was set up so perfectly, and just, I don't know, it was a great one. And then this honorable mention, I really want to throw in my top 3, but I don't think it overlaps any of the other ones. This was just one of those knockouts that just dropped your jaw, and it actually wasn't inside the UFC. It happened in the Ultimate Fighter.
Uriah Hall.
Yep. That was, when I watched that for the first time, I was in awe. My jaw dropped.
It's one of the it's one of the scariest KOs. Broke the guy's jaw, but then he's laying on the ground and you can hear him just like
wheezing
and trying to breathe, and it's just extremely scary. Shout out to Uriah Hall, retiring recently. Super awesome career, known for putting people's lights out. But yeah, I agree. That one was definitely worthy of an honorable mention.
I had to throw that one in there. But yeah, that's what I got, man. I think, I don't know. me, Askren Masvidal, that was just leading up to that fight, all the shit that was talked, and then that happens. I remember I was sitting at a B-Dubs in California during that time, and I think that was on the same card as John Jones versus Thiago Santos, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it was, yeah.
UFC 239.
Yep.
I think that was Jones and Santos. But no, I remember everyone in that restaurant went just nuts. Everyone lost shit. Nobody expected that. It happened so fast that it was just kind of like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah. But that about wraps it up for us and our our comeback podcast.
Yeah, like we said, typically we're going to be releasing on Thursdays as far as podcasts go, and we'll be here generally between Tuesday to Wednesday as far as live streaming goes, but wanted to get this kicked off. Original plan was last night, that fell through, but we wanted to get this out there before tomorrow's card. But next week we will be back for regular schedule, hopefully Tuesday or Wednesday for the live stream, and then podcast will be released on Spotify and Apple on Thursday at some point, generally probably mid-morning, early afternoon. That'll be released.
Yeah, make sure you guys subscribe to the YouTube right here. It's free. Give us a follow on Twitter. Give us a follow on AnyFans if you guys have that app. Just keep up with us. I'm sure we'll be tweeting along with the fights this weekend.
Yep.
And if you want to go back watch any of the clips from this stream or anything, it'll be saved on YouTube as well. But yeah, I mean, just excited to be back doing this. Excited for the UFC. Next week, we'll go over previewing Sanhagen versus Yudong Song, that event. So
yeah, good point.
Yeah, I mean, just super excited for all of this stuff, and like we said, there's never a shortage of content with the UFC and all the stuff that they're doing. So.
Super excited to be back. Look forward to next week's episode, and also looking forward to a good weekend of fights. So be sure to tune in to us next week, hopefully on Tuesday for YouTube, Thursday for our podcast listeners. But until then, we will see you guys next time. Thank you for watching and listening.